Hi, how's it going? This is Resin of Collinwood back with my second video for tonight. And I got one more to do after that. So this is Victoria Winters versus Carolyn Collins Stoddard. Victoria Winters, who I've called the ultimate final girl, going against Carolyn. No, again, these aren't literal verses. I'm looking into the characters' moralities. And you might say, well, this is no contest. Victoria, of course, right? But I'm going to make a strong case for Carolyn here, too. Again, the difference between these characters is great. They're not the same characters, so let's get into who are they, and how do we meet them. I'll start with Victoria Winters, obviously. Look, if you're a Dark Shadows fan, you know this story, and you might skip over it. But if you aren't, and you're tuning in for the first time, here it is. Victoria Winters was left on the doorstep in a box on the doorstep of the Hammond Fowling home with the note, "Her name is Victoria. I cannot take care of her." And she was left in the middle of winter. Thus, Victoria Winters. She's named after the season she was left in. So, Victoria Winters gets a letter one day from Elizabeth Collins Stoddard to come be companion and governess to her nephew, David Collins, who again, a woman who she's never heard of, never met, sends her a letter. And so she goes. She goes for many reasons. Now, obviously, you've heard these reasons on this channel, but I'll repeat those reasons in case you haven't. Victoria Winters is going to Collinsport, yes, to teach and tutor David, sure, but she received money, from Bangor, Maine, that was postmarked from Bangor, Maine. And Bangor is only 50 miles from Collinsport. Sound like a stretch? I bet it does, but she's going anyway. And why not? What could it hurt, right? And she's going to find out. So this girl who has no real identity of her own is going to Collinsport to be the governess, to work for the Collins family and to work with young David Collins. And she's let me put it to you this way: Victoria Winters is about to meet Michael Myers Jr. before Michael Myers exists. Okay, well, sort of. I guess I shouldn't call David Michael Myers. But he does have psychotic tendencies. He removes his dad's bleeder valve and tries to kill him. It's all good. Uh, God. Look, from a moral standpoint, morality, God, does it get any cleaner than Victoria Winters? But is it as clean as I make it out to be? Here's the thing. Yes and no. Yes, obviously, I love Victoria Winters. She's my favorite character of all time. Nothing will ever change that. But that character could have some heel tendencies. And if you pay very close attention, during the Phoenix arc, Victoria Winters says 100 years. And the way she does it is sort of in a sinister tone. And sure, you could say she's saying that as an antagonist, but still the way she's saying it is pretty sinister. It's almost like she's poking that bear, like, hey, hey. And that's the thing I'll always give Victoria Winters. From a moral standpoint, she wasn't afraid to stand her ground with Elizabeth, Roger, Burke, hell, David. And yeah, David could frighten her a bit. She saw a ghost, she saw a phoenix, she met a vampire, Barnabas. And again, we meet this girl on the train station. We're in many ways, what I love about Victoria Winters, we arrive with her. We're Dark Shadows never made you feel like an audience. It made you feel like you were there with the characters. That's the best compliment I can really give this series. It makes you be there and it puts you there, and they do a great job of it. It made me feel like I was right across from Victoria Winters watching this girl, and it felt like you got off the train with her. when you're introduced to Carolyn, you sort of do feel like you're in the Blue Whale just watching Carolyn dance. Here's this young girl, beautiful blonde, dancing in the Blue Whale bar, dancing with a man who isn't her boyfriend. you know, she's rich, she's entitled, and she acts that way too. I mean, Carolyn is a complete brat, and you love her for it. It's a thing. Even when Carolyn gets mad at Vicky, I can't fully hate her. She's being just a jealous brat. But I can never hate Carolyn. There's something about Carolyn. Carolyn has all the qualities of a final girl, just like Vicky, but in the same sense, different from Vicky, where Vicky has to sort of deal with Elizabeth, Roger, and, you know, Carolyn is sort of, though I talk about shades of gray, she's sort of, she has no problem poking the bear, the lion, and the other lion at the same time. Like, oh, I'll poke Bert Devlin, which will poke Roger, which will poke my mother. It's like, oh my God, girl. Like, Carolyn literally is trying to arrange the triple threat match at times of the century between Elizabeth, Roger, and Burke. And I don't know, there's times it's like, are you doing this on purpose? Or are you just, doing it to see what happens, or just doing it by accident? And it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch Nancy Barrett just work and do this. She's flirting, she's literally throwing herself at Burt Dowling the way the widows throw themselves off Widow's Hill. I'm talking here. And she just goes all in. And this just infuriates her mother and Burt Devlin. And what infuriates Carolyn the most is how much that Burke pays attention more to Vicky than he does her. And Carolyn can see it. And it really pisses Carolyn off. And that's where sort of Carolyn sort of getting mad at Vicky. Just so, I love it. The Nancy Barrett and Alexander Molchiles were just great together. They just like, wait, what? I was just having dinner talking about my past. I wasn't making out with the guy. She does kiss the, he does kiss her though. Um, and Carolyn gets kissed by Bert too. So that's the thing. Here's Carolyn, who again is throwing herself at Bert Devlin, and she's throwing Joe to the side pretty much. So here's a woman who's not afraid to sort of, that's my mom's choice. That's not really my choice. Joe's more of a friend who I like. He's a good dude, but no, I don't want. When I say these characters are night and day, they really are. Where Victoria Winters is like innocent and shy and playing coy, Carolyn, there's times she ain't playing coy at all. She ain't playing hard to get with Burke. I think where Carolyn gets mad the most is during the Phoenix arc when Burke is all back in love with Thor, and it's like, I see you for who you are now, for what my mother and Uncle Roger told me. And that confrontation comes later, which I love. When I say Carolyn is as much as a final girl as Vicky, she really is. I mean, think about everything Carolyn's gonna go through here too. Carolyn is gonna, watch her mother get put in a hospital by a Phoenix. Later on, she's gonna become Barnabas's servant. Enjoy that power though. And later on, she's gonna get, married to one Jeb Hawks. Jeb Hawks falls in love with Carolyn. And in all fairness, who wouldn't fall in love with Carolyn? The girl's just beautiful, and she's very, charming, and when when she wants to be. When you look at Carolyn, it's not hard to see her as the matriarch future of the family. And it's funny because fan fiction writer, blogger, friend John Philip Betancourt made her the matriarch in his story, Return of Dark Shadows. I'll leave a link to that in the description box on this one. Very, 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 very good story. Straight 10. Straight 100, actually. Really, really good. But really, these characters and moralities, when I look at them deeply, I look at Victoria Winters, who, look, we all know deep down Victoria Winters is a member of the Collins family, by hook or crook, right? And that's all Victoria really, Winters really wanted, was the acceptance of being somebody, of really, she never needed the last name Collins to show you who she was. Victoria stood for right and wrong. And that's something I'll say too. I'm not saying Carolyn didn't stand for that in her own way. Sure, she did. But at times, Carolyn's moral morality at times is a real question mark when you get into. I'm not sitting here saying she turns against her family to go, side with Burke or anything, but at the same time, if Burke said, hey, let's get on a plane and leave, I don't think she'd object to that either. It's really weird that Carolyn, it, again, I'm not saying she's a heel, but there's times Carolyn is very shades of gray. And I think, when I look at how far Carolyn goes as a character, she really does go great. I mean, Crazy Carolyn is like, it's heartbreaking because it's like you feel for her because you've been through a lot with this character by this point. By this point, Jeb Hawks has happened, and you really feel for her too. And when they go from 1995 back to 1970, and you meet Sebastian Shaw, who's played by the late great Christopher Pennock, sorry, who looks, like Jeb Hawks. And man, you really feel for Carolyn. And you sort of, Sebastian doesn't try to be Jeb Hawks. He just happens to look like him. And I don't think he is. I've said this before, I really like the character Sebastian Shaw. He's very, very interesting. And he actually could read the future, actually, because he tells the female vampire, he tells her, hey, I know this is wrong. I know this, letting her know, hey, I know that I'm telling her future the wrong way because I can actually see this stuff, which is great. And, and again, you really, Nancy Barrett, again, this is what I mean by Final Girls. Alexandra Molchiles and Nancy Barrett, they knew how to make you feel sorry for their characters. They knew how to get sympathy for their characters. What Carolyn could go, listen, when Carolyn held the gun in her purse and she was getting ready to plug Jason Mraz, you were hoping that girl pulled that trigger. Right? Right. Oh my God. Lord. But you really felt these actresses really knew how to get sympathy for their characters, even though Nancy Barrett's Carolyn was Crazy Carolyn. Once you sort of saw how that became that way too, it really helped. And no, do I feel you they had to show you that to sort of make you understand 1995? No, I think 1995, and I've sort of talked about this with my buddy Patrick McRae. Shout out to him when we did our 1995 episodes. They do not have Dark Shadows did not have to show you what happened in 1970 to get to 1995. The terror and the imagination of how that happened is just terrifying enough. They could have just went from there to 1840 and skipped 1970. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't skip it, but I'm saying what Nancy Barrett does, what Farrah David does, what Jonathan Frid does, David Selby does. what Grayson Hall does, what James Storm does, all of them and Nancy Barrett especially, really make you feel just the doom and gloom of 1995, and it's beautifully done. And that's what I mean by final girl. Both the one thing I'll give both these characters for their, even though there's times I don't think Nancy Barrett's character Carolyn did anything so more morality wrong that she couldn't be a final girl. Sure, you could question certain things, but both these characters were great, 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 great final girls, and so was Catherine Lee Scott's Maggie Evans, which I might get into not tomorrow night, but Sunday night. I'll have to put her up against somebody or fun, or maybe not. Because I got one more video to do after this, and I think it's Burt Devlin and Jason McGuire, if I'm not mistaken. That one's going to be fun. Um, Again, just the way you met these characters was so different, and that's what I mean. They didn't try to make you know these two actresses play the same character. They got along, they fought, they argued, they got along. It was never the same thing, and it was never the same character. It was, Victoria Winters wasn't Carolyn Collins Stoddard, and Carolyn Collins Stoddard wasn't Victoria Winters, and that's a hell of a thing for a show that ran 5 seasons and had a lot of characters put in there, and they were great. When I mean versus and morality, I mean these characters were just great. I give Look, I'm gonna give the edge to Victoria Winters, and you can say I'm being biased, and I'll plead guilty to that to the moon and back. Sure, because Victoria Winters, from a morality standpoint, there isn't no one touching that. I mean, the girl was put on trial for witchcraft, for God's sakes, wrongfully. She wasn't a witch. That's something I really didn't touch upon in this video, but I'll touch upon it here. Again, both actresses knew how to make you feel sorry for them, and really, they didn't have to oversell it. They knew how to sell it just right, and that's the best compliment I can give. From a morality standpoint, both are good. I can't put either of them in the bad category. And again, they were good without being the same exact character. And that's important too. That's the most important thing of this video here. Sure, there's things Carolyn did. Is working for Barn, does that disqualify her? Even though she enjoyed it? No, because again, there's a moment. If Carolyn really wanted to go full on destroy her family, really, like if she really wanted, I know Barnabas sort of shakes his head no. Like there's a scene during the seance where Carolyn's impersonating the ghost of Sarah, and once Sarah comes into Vicky, and that starts happening, and she looks over at Barnabas, and Barnabas is like, "Nope, nope, don't do it." Carolyn could just go against the grain and just destroy Vicky. Why doesn't she? Or to destroy her family? She doesn't. I really do think Carolyn deep down did not, even though she somewhat enjoys it, and she did sort of, at that seance, she realizes, man, I can't do it, even though, yep, he's telling me no. And I do think at times she decided for herself too, I can't do this. Maybe I'm giving her a pass. Guilty, your honors. Too much of a pass, probably, right? But I forgive Carolyn for enjoying the being Barnabas's servant, and she was willing too. I mean, she after she got bit, she was willing to help him. I mean, I would say, she wasn't. Dr. Hoffman sweats Carolyn a bit. When you watch those episodes, you can tell Hoffman knows Carolyn's working for him, obviously, and Hoffman is sweating. Carolyn called it Stoddard. It's a beautiful performance by Grayson Hall, Carolyn, and Nancy Barrett. To Alexandra Molchialis and Nancy Barrett, great job by both actresses. I can't compliment them enough for their characters and the way they played them. Beautiful, beautiful job, ladies. All right, you folks, I'll see you here in a little bit.